And that's why I call her AR-15.
I give you the very next day, you boom, boom, boom.
So, Angela Rye, what did we see today? Did we see the president saying, let's care about these people, or did we see a distraction and more ugly politics?
I think it's definitely more of a distraction and more ugly politics. Do we have a responsibility to grieve with these families who have lost their loved ones at the expense of no matter who committed the crime? Absolutely. Should we show compassion to these folks? Absolutely. Should we set policy based on these deaths or these incidents that have occurred that is broad sweeping, impacting families all over the world? Absolutely not. I think that the president has a responsibility to be not only be careful with his word choice, but to also be accurate with data. Today, Chris, he spoke and used data that has been debunked several times, including by the website Snopes, from Steve King, talking about the number of undocumented people in this country who commit crimes. That number has been disproven over and over again. In fact, there's data that demonstrates that when undocumented people live in communities, the crime rate doesn't go up at all. So what the president has engaged in, Chris, is the very same thing that he's done since he announced his campaign, and that is to fearmonger and to play on people's worst fears by otherizing other people. We just can't continue to allow that to happen.
So, John, why is the president right to sell the American people that you got to be tough on the border, because if not, someone's going to try to kill you?
Well, Chris and Angela, look, this is the other side of the tragedy here. When illegals come into the United States and they're undocumented, here are the facts, right? You're all welcome to your own opinion, but there's only one set of facts. And the GEO has said since 2011,
it's the GAO. But go ahead.
GAO, right? The GAO, right? That's a government. Doesn't matter who the president is or who's in charge.
Right, right.
They have said since 2011, with undocumented immigrants, illegals, 25,000 murders, 70,000 sex crimes, 40,000 robberies. Now, this is tragic. It has to stop. And what the president has done with this policy is he tried to put in a deterrent to stop people from breaking the law and crossing the border illegally. That's the policy. Catch and release, Chris, is not a policy. It's looking the other way, and it's the 40-year unholy alliance of Democrats that don't care who comes in because they want cheap votes, and Republican big donors from Goldman Sachs and Wall Street that don't care about U.S. workers and what their wages are. They simply want cheap labor so your friends in Lower Manhattan can make more money. That's been the unholy alliance that this president has exposed for us all to see.
All right, so let's get Angela back in here. So the answer of the president, the answer of the president is to this unholy alliance that Mr. Fredericks just lined up is to separate these families and create a crisis on the border that he was not prepared to deal with his own systems and procedures.
Chris, you know, there was such an important moment in something that John just said. And I hope that people all over this country, all over the world, play it over and over again. What this is about to conservatives who are heartless is the fear that there are people who are coming here who will vote for progressive policy, for people who will treat them as human beings. That's what he said. His first point was that Democrats are going to use this for cheap votes. That is an incredible point. The biggest thing that you all are worried about is figuring out other ways to suppress votes. You did it by getting a North Carolina voter ID pass, and now you're trying to do it with the border. What's interesting here is it is still very inhumane. You tried to go down this very dangerous road earlier this week and last week, calling people, it doesn't matter that these aren't our kids, but the reality of it is what we should be doing as global citizens. Chris, you raised a great point in the earlier hour. We're global citizens. We are human beings first. We should be decent first. So we need to treat people with the respect that they deserve. The immigration policies that we have don't work. But what would have been amazing is for Republicans to have a backbone when the Senate was trying to pass a comprehensive immigration bill that never made it to the House. That would have been incredible, because then we would have been utilizing the base and a foundation for policies that may have worked. We haven't tried that. Instead, what you've done is demonize people and come up with this idea of a faux wall that Mexico was never going to pay for. And now you're trying to get taxpayers to pay for a wall that has never worked. There was a contract for this wall through the Department of Homeland Security, through SBI Net. The wall failed. It was physical and electronic wall. It doesn't work. So instead, why don't we stop with the hyperbolic talking points and say, what we have isn't working. What we're doing is inhumane. How do we come together to figure out how to make a better life for people who are trying to escape a nightmare? We should not put them in another one.
How's the president's policy making things better, John?
Well, look, I mean, Angela is the noted queen of hyperbole. There was not a single fact, Angela, in anything you just said.
That's not a fair assessment, but it's not about you guys.
Here's the bottom line. Let me answer the question, so Angela doesn't again get the gist.
All right, answer the question then. Don't take shots at Angela. Just answer the question.
The president doesn't want an open border system. Obviously, Angela is for open borders, and we can't have a double standard justice system in this country, Chris, because right now in your city of New York, in Brooklyn, if a single mom that doesn't have any money right now goes into the drugstore and steals 2 boxes of Roman noodles to feed her children, and she's apprehended, excuse me, and she's apprehended for shoplifting. If she steals food for her children, and she's apprehended as she leaves for shoplifting to feed her family, guess what happens? She's processed, she goes in jail, and her children are taken away.
But that's a crime. It's not a low-level misdemeanor for covering the border, crossing the border.
Well, but crossing the border is illegal. If they wanted asylum...
And you have a system set up for that, John. You have a system of prisons and courts and judges ready to go. You guys didn't prepare for your own success in these roundups.
We expected those that wanted asylum to follow the law and to go to the port of entry.
And the ones who are, you're locking up anyway. That's what the case is about in the ACLU, John.
That's what the law in the United States is. They put their kids at risk by breaking the law. John, I know you said I'm the queen of hyperbole. Well, you're the king of verbosity. So let me just stop you in your tracks where you are, because you also had a lot of misnomers and false, fake news in your talking points. Well, here's what I'll say to you. The most important thing, because I know from what I understand about you, you're a proponent of criminal justice reform, so I know that you believe that the woman, whether she stole Roman noodles or ramen noodles, she probably doesn't deserve to be in jail because she was just trying to feed her family. Right. So I hope that we can agree as decent human beings that someone seeking asylum, running for their lives, fearing and just trying to find another opportunity for their kids, a safe space for their kids, they might not go through the process that you'd want them to. They may miss an I, or forget to dot an I or cross a T. They may just trying to be running to safety. So if we gave asylum seekers the benefit of the doubt, how do we truly solve this problem? It's not by calling me the queen of her hyperbole. It's by saying, wow, she might have had a reasonable point here. What we have going right now does not work. What we just created and tried to do, what we tried to do was separate families so that by the time we detain families in whole, people will see that as an acceptable solution. It's not. What we've tried isn't working. What y'all have tried isn't working. Why don't we come together, have some type of North American convention, and figure out what people need to get ahead and to really succeed instead of otherizing people?
I like the positive suggestion of getting something done. That's why we keep the hashtag of do your damn job going here to get Congress to start working together, because the problems are real and the solutions have proven elusive. Mr. Fredericks, Ms. Rye, thank you very much for making the case on Friday night.